Let me tell you about a guy named Daniel. Daniel is 29. He reads finance articles, he has a brokerage account, he puts money in every month. By every definition of responsible adult, Daniel is doing the right thing. But Daniel is quietly making a mistake, not the kind that shows up immediately, not the kind his bank will warn him about, the kind that only becomes obvious 20 years from now when he looks at his account and wonders why it's not where he thought it would be. And here's the uncomfortable part. If you invest at all, there's a good chance you're making the same mistake too. Not because you're careless, not because you don't care about money, but because the way most people think about investing is fundamentally backwards, and nobody really tells you that until it's too late. So today, we're going to fix that. Let's start with what most people think investing is. You have money, you put it somewhere, stocks, index funds, maybe a bit of crypto. The market goes up, your money grows. That's the idea, right? And on the surface, that logic works. The problem isn't the investing part. The problem is everything that happens before you invest. And most people never think about that. Here's a question. How do you decide how much to invest each month? Most people will say something like, whatever's left over at the end of the month. Or maybe, I try to do a few $100 when I can. Some people have a round number in their head. I invest $500 a month, and they feel pretty good about that. That all sounds reasonable, but it's actually the wrong way to think about it. And the reason goes deeper than budgeting advice. It goes into how your brain is actually wired around money. Here's something psychologists call the last dollar problem. When you spend first and invest what's left, you're essentially investing with your worst money, the money that survived all your other decisions, impulses, and convenience purchases. That money has already run a gauntlet. It got past your coffee habit, your online cart, your subscriptions you forgot about, your treat-yourself moments. What's left isn't a strategy, it's whatever survived. Think of it like filling a jar with rocks. If you put the sand in first, this small, loose spending, there's no room left for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first, the sand fills in around them. The jar holds more. Your investment is the big rock. Most people are putting it last. Now here's where it gets interesting, because this isn't just a system problem, it's a psychology problem. There's a concept in behavioral economics called present bias. It basically means that our brains are wired to prefer things now over things later, even if the future thing is objectively bigger and better. $100 today feels more real than $500 in 10 years, even if the math clearly favors waiting. This isn't a character flaw, it's evolution. For most of human history, grabbing the thing in front of you was smart. You didn't know if you'd survive until next season. Your brain still operates with some of that logic, even though your reality is completely different now. So when you sit down at the end of the month and think about investing, your brain is running ancient software. It sees your balance, it sees things you could buy or do, and it quietly argues for keeping more and investing less, every month, without fail. Here's the insight that changes everything. You don't need more willpower, you need a better system. Let's go back to Daniel. The version of Daniel who's making the mistake doesn't have bad intentions, he's just letting his brain make the investing decision in real time every month. And every month, present bias wins a little bit. He invests a little less than he meant to, he moves the number down slightly because this month was a bit tight, he tells himself he'll make it up next month. Now imagine a different Daniel. Same income, same expenses, same financial situation, but this Daniel has set up an automatic transfer that moves money into his investment account on the same day his paycheck lands. The money never sits in his checking account long enough to feel spendable. His brain never gets a vote on it. 20 years later, these two Daniels are in very different places, not because one was smarter or worked harder, but because one removed a decision from the equation. This is the real secret that wealthy people understand. Wealth is not built by making great financial decisions every day. It's built by reducing the number of financial decisions you have to make. Warren Buffett has said many times that the biggest wealth killer isn't bad investments, it's behavior. It's the emotional, inconsistent, reactive decisions that most investors make without realizing it. And there's another layer to this that most people miss. When the market drops, and it always drops sometimes, what do most investors do? They panic. They either sell to stop the bleeding, or they freeze and stop contributing. Both responses feel logical in the moment. Both are financially damaging in the long run. There's actually a name for this in psychology: loss aversion. Losing $100 feels roughly twice as painful as gaining $100 feels good. That's not a metaphor. Studies have shown that the emotional weight of a loss is about twice as heavy as an equivalent gain. So when your portfolio drops by 15%, the pain you feel is disproportionate to the actual damage. And that disproportionate pain causes you to make decisions, selling, stopping contributions, that permanently lock in losses that the market would have eventually recovered from. The investor who kept putting in money during every market dip over the last 30 years didn't need to be brilliant. They just needed to not panic. That's it. Not panicking turned out to be one of the most valuable financial skills of the modern era. So what do you actually do with this? 3 things. First, automate before you can think about it. Set up an automatic investment contribution that goes out the day you get paid, not at the end of the month, not when you feel like it, the same day. The amount you're trying to build toward, start there, even if it's smaller than you'd like. The habit is worth more than the amount right now. Second, define your number before emotion gets involved. Decide today, not during a market crash, not when your account is down, not when something stressful is happening, what percentage of your income you're going to invest. Write it down. 10%, 15%, whatever makes sense. Now that number is a commitment, not a monthly negotiation. When your brain tries to argue with it, it loses because the decision is already made. Third, understand that volatility is not your enemy. A market dip isn't a disaster, it's a sale. When prices drop, you're buying more shares for the same amount of money. The people who kept buying during the 2008 crash, during the 2020 crash, during every scary headline moment, they didn't look smart at the time, they looked crazy. But the math worked out beautifully for them. The investor who stays the course during a correction is practicing something that looks boring but is genuinely rare: emotional discipline with money. Here's the thought I want to leave you with. Most people think investing is about finding the right stocks, timing the market, picking the best funds. And sure, those things matter on the margins, but the biggest variable in your financial future isn't what you invest in, it's whether you actually invest, consistently, without letting your brain talk you out of it every time life gets a little complicated. Daniel, the first version, might make all the right investment choices, good funds, decent allocation, reads all the articles. But if he's negotiating with himself every month about how much to contribute, present bias is going to quietly drain his future wealth for decades. The second Daniel might never read a finance book again, but if his system removes the decision from his brain's reach, he wins by default. The market rewards consistency more than brilliance. It rewards patience more than prediction, and it rewards the people who build systems over the people who rely on motivation. So the question isn't really whether you're investing, it's whether you've built something that invests for you, even on the months when you don't feel like it, even when the news is scary, even when your brain has 100 reasons to wait. Because the best time to invest was always yesterday. The second best time is right now, with a system that makes you do it.